Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We're here for our second episode of the driving school series today for braking and why it's so crucial. So braking is crucial and is where you can actually gain a lot of lap time over your opponents if you just do it that little bit better. Being able to brake late and still carry that momentum into the corner is going to give you them extra tenths of a second, which are crucial. Being able to maximize the engine braking to stop later and the trail braking to be able to carry that momentum through the corner. So we're going to take a look at some different techniques and how you can apply them to driving. So, trail braking is the most well-known and possibly most effective and well-used method. So, as you can see, we brake hard initially in a straight line, and as we come through the gears, we go fourth, third, second, and as we go from that slower second gear transition, we start to lift off the brake and start to turn slowly. This is to help keep the car pitched in and help us turn, because if we're fully off the brakes and we're coasting, there's no weight shift and there's no obviously ballast in the car. So if you keep that brake pinned, you've got more weight on the front to help the car turn in, and as you can see through this fast right, it just helps keep that car a bit pinned and stops, gives you a bit more time in that transition between the brake and the throttle. So the next method used for braking is cadence braking, which essentially is just another word for pump braking. So as you can see, we brake really hard initially, and as we come down the gears, we pump the brake as we come down the gears to stop the fronts locking up. It's not really that effective, as you can see from the clips above, but it is more useful for sort of getting used to no ABS, perhaps on the Codemasters Formula 1 games. So next up is engine braking. So engine braking is where you use the gears to stop the car better. So coinciding with trail braking, engine braking is using the gears to assist the car to stop. Going down the gears really quickly, as you can see above, we go from fifth, fourth, third, second, first, and sort of slow it down the lower gears you get. It helps stop the car quicker, but if you do it too quickly, there's runs the risk of you locking the rear brakes. So finding a good balance is crucial to fast lap times. Now it's going to be some examples of it done wrong. Coming into this fast double right-hander, you can see we go full on the brakes and try and turn at the same time. This just destabilizes the car and makes it slide a lot, and you can see we're having to counter steer a lot, and it will cost you a lot of time and even spin you out. Coming into this hairpin type corner, you can see we go full on the brakes, but we don't go down the gears fast enough. You can see we keep it in fourth and the car just doesn't stop. It just goes straight on, even though we are trying to trail brake to full effect, and once we do, it's bitten back too much and we slide on the exit. Coming into here, again, we brake all in a straight line, doing it reasonably well, but we forget to downshift, and as we start to turn, the car is bogging and just not stopping, so we're having to turn a lot harder and a lot later to get around the corner. Next up is brake bias, and brake bias is the percentage of bias that is used between the brakes. A more frontward brake bias will mean more strain is put towards the front brakes. Put simply, the car is more likely to lock the fronts up with this extra strain, and may also cause too much weight to go to the front of the car and make the rear end unstable. But if trail braking is used to full effect, it can help you stop a lot quicker. On the contrary, a more rearward brake bias gives the rear a little bit more stability. However, as a consequence, the front brakes aren't able to stop as well. However, in a race scenario, putting the brakes more rearward helps preserve the front tyres grip and can help you preserve those tyres a little bit longer in a stint. So we're now just going to have a look at some examples. This is frontward brake bias. You can see we stop a lot quicker and more effectively, but coming off the brakes you can see there's a lot of twitch on the steering wheel and it's not very stable, and you stop quick but you can't get that turning. And in a racing line, you brake, it leads into the turning, it leads into the apex, leads into the acceleration. If you get one of those wrong, it really compromises the rest of it. Coming into this hairpin especially, you can see we stop quick, get the turn in, but as we start to turn and lift off the brakes, the car just slides out because it's not pinned with the brakes properly. So coming into here with rearward brake bias, you can see we brake at the same point and try and trail brake, it just isn't happening because of the fronts aren't getting enough strain. So we're going to show you some examples of braking offline. So braking offline can have a number of consequences, as mentioned in my previous video. Braking offline and at the same point will cause the corner to become more sharp and cause you to go in deep, costing time. Another consequence is you're on the dirty side of the track, which has less grip, especially in wet conditions. So when braking offline, make sure to time the braking right to avoid going wide or spinning. As you can see here, we go very, very wide because the car just isn't stopping. That we're at too acute of an angle, and we're just going to go wide into the corner, cost ourselves time because we have to bite the car back to get it to stop going off track. So another example in the hairpin, as you can see, we're going to be braking offline and braking at the same point. So we brake really hard, try and get it stopped, but it just isn't going to work. unfortunately, and you just slide, and we lose a lot of time on the exit. So we're just going to go for a lap without utilizing the braking techniques I've just taught you, such as engine braking or trail braking, where you can get away with it and how to more better utilize it. So coming into this first chicane, we go into third gear, lift off the brakes completely and chuck it into the corner, and you can sort of get away with it. In some corners it does work. Sometimes you do want to just chuck the car in and keep it unstable. It sometimes does work. It depends on the corner, the car, etc., the conditions, etc. Coming through this corner, you can see we come off the brakes too quickly and the front weight just comes up. Obviously when you brake, all the momentum goes to the front of the car, which gives them front tyres the grip to turn the corner more effectively. If you come off, the weight is back centered, so the front tyres don't have that extra bit of grip to utilize. Coming through this corner, we don't really do too bad. I actually trial braked too much. Obviously it just becomes muscle memory over time, so try and get embedded into your mind. Coming into this corner is crucial you engine brake and trail brake, but we don't. We keep it in that third gear for too long, downshift and come off the brakes and then turn straight away, and it just destabilizes the car, gives us a more narrow run coming out of the corner and doesn't stop us as effectively. Another place you'll notice is in the front, these fast two corners here. We brake all in a straight line, but we keep the brakes fully on as we start to turn the corner, and that will destabilize the car to the point where you're going to lose the rear end. And when you try to avoid an incident, that's when it happens. You're turning and you put the brakes on fully and the car just goes. So that's the first lap done. You know, we didn't utilize it particularly well. It wasn't the greatest lap, and that is going to be a 37.2. So this is going to be our lap utilizing the brake techniques. Coming into here, we keep it in third gear and keep the brake pressure a little bit on as we start to turn, and again here we keep it tight, brake the second gear to get the car turned in and get that extra rotation. And you can see we're already 3/10 up in that one corner. That's all it took, was that one corner. We're 3/10 up. Coming through here, we don't get the best run particularly and lose a bit of time, but we're still 5/10 up on our original time, and that's 5/10 you can gain just like that through 3 corners, and it is lap time you're losing just by not braking properly. Applying these braking techniques will gain you over a second a lap easily, perhaps even, you know, more than that, depending on the conditions on the track, how much you need to utilize them, etc. And we don't get particularly the best run through there, you lose a bit of time, but even when we get it right on this lap, you can just see how much you gain by utilizing these braking techniques properly. Especially through here, we gain 2/10 going in just by, you know, downshifting and coming off the brakes as opposed to keeping it in gear and keeping the brakes pinned. It gains you that extra lap time so easily. Coming through here, we want to brake in a straight line, come off and then start turning as we're downshifting. We don't want to have too much brake pressure on. I had a little bit too much brake pressure on there in that example, which wasn't ideal whatsoever. But you can still see as we come through this lap, unfortunately the footage got corrupted, but we gained about 1.5 seconds on that lap just by utilizing the braking techniques, and there's perhaps even more in that lap. Just need to hook it up and find what balance of brake bias, engine braking, etc. works for you. So to round off the video, I want to address a couple of the points. Braking is where a lot of the lap time you're losing can be made up. Keep the car pinned with the brakes to prevent the weight shifting all over the place. With the brakes on, all of the ballast shifts to the front of the car, giving the front tyres more grip. Utilize this when you're trail braking. With braking, it's more a case of timing the brakes to hit a perfect apex and get an amazing run out of the corner, as opposed to being the last of the late brakers and taking yourself off the track. Remember, the rule of thumb is slow in, fast out. Try and find the balance that works best for you on the type of corner, the car, the brake bias, the setup you're running. It is all different. Adapt as quick as you can and find what optimal brake pressure and at what time with the corner works best for you. Sometimes not even going 100% throttle coming into the corner. Sometimes it's only half throttle as you're starting to turn really quickly, just to gain that extra bit of lap time. Again, just go out there, practice, experiment, go over the limit, go under the limit, and just try and get as close to the point where you feel comfortable you're gaining the maximum amount of lap time. So I hope this has helped, guys. If it did, please like, subscribe and stay around for more. Next week we're going to be addressing apexes and acceleration in the final part of the racing lines segment of the series. Then we'll go into more advanced stuff later on in the series. So thank you for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.